truck in front of you, located in the reverse emergency exit. When walking down the aisle, we recommend that you hold to the back of the seat for stability in case the train sways while in movement, and out of consideration for passengers boarding at other stations. Occupy the seat and car showing your boarding pass unless you've been told otherwise by an employee. station à gare de Oshawa. Montreal Central Station.